Tweet, 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 tweet. All right. Good morning, everybody. What's happening? It is fucking freezing, but we're alive and we are well, and it is Friday and the weekend is here. And I hope you have a nice, warm, cozy weekend planned ahead of you. Or if you're the adventurous type, that you're going to be doing all those things that Leigh always does, like bungee jumping and skydiving and running around with your bra on top of your head. She does crazy shit like that every weekend. That's why I always ask her about it, but she just never admits it.
Yeah, you wish I did those things. Maybe I actually do. You never know. But I think life's crazy enough.
I suspect you do. I really do. I think that's what actually happens. So what's news? How are you?
Yeah, all good. Work stress doesn't seem to stop, hey? But we go on. We look forward to the weekend. Some interesting developments in life in general, which I don't know if you want to, we can chat about that a bit later.
That's why I asked. Go on.
All right. So, a big change of life is ahead for me as a woman, something that I haven't really thought much about. Growing one or two stubborn hairs on one's chin, starting to have a little bit of brain fog, not, the hot flashes, wondering why everything's so hot in a room all at once, feeling a bit overwhelmed, all these things that they talk about. You kind of ignore them.
But yeah, didn't all that stuff stop for you a long time ago?
It kind of, it actually does. It starts off slowly over like a 10-year period. And 6 months ago at my last doctor's visit, she said, next time you come, please have these tests done.
A battery of tests.
So I went and had a battery of tests and arrived, and she said, how's your life been? And I just started speaking generally about things, and she said, oh, no, I can explain that, but carry on. I can explain that, but carry on. And pulled out the blood test and said, girl, you've got 6 months to go before you hit menopause.
Jesus. So they have a clock on it. It's not like some random, not really safe or sorry, secure beginning and end time. It actually has dates.
Yeah, people think this perimenopause thing happens for 10 years and you never really get there. When the clock starts ticking, it ticks. She said 6 months to a year and you're done. So straight on to hormone replacement therapy.
Wow.
So that's been a wild ride. I've never had to think about these things before. I don't have friends who are in that position. Yes, Dr. Robin, thank you. There are drugs. I've started my drug journey, but we started off slowly with
your
a
drug
gel.
journey. Everything these days is a journey, right? So even your menopausal drug journey. This is so exciting.
I think the worst thing is that I experienced was I gained 3 kilograms, which was inexplicable because I was eating less, drinking less, on a GLP-1,
right.
Exercising a bit more, and I couldn't understand it. And that's when she said, well, I can explain that. So hormones and drugs, you can fix all of the above. So it starts off with a gel, and she said, just 1 pump of the gel. And then I said, but then what must I do with it? Do I eat it? What is it? I don't know any of this stuff. It's all brand new to me. So that you've got to rub onto either the inside of your arms or she said, any part of your body with soft skin that doesn't get much sun. So I said, okay, so my body. But yes, and then from there on you move. I may have to, when you're using a contraceptive, one option is to use something called Mirena, which is a loop or a device that they insert in your uterus. Me being celibate, I said to her, is she crazy? I don't need that. She said, no, that's for, the gel is for the estrogen, and then you need to balance it with the progesterone because it could be... Good
God. What did women do? But what did women do before they even knew that there was such a thing, or before it had a name and doctors took it seriously?
They went crazy and had their hysterectomy, had their uteruses removed.
Yes, that's right.
Because that stopped all the hormonal upsets, right? And in fact, one of the steps in this journey is looking for, especially if you haven't had children like me, when you're barren. Finally, Gareth.
Yeah, I mean, I always remember how I used to joke about that on the show. No.
It's if there are.
I think I introduced you. I introduced you once at a party. I went, "Oh yeah, this is Leanne. She works with me. She's barren."
Yes. No, in fact, you did it in front of who's that uppity Indian lady with her own show that used to be on Carte Blanche?
Oh, Ruda.
No, Indian.
Oh, Devi.
Devi. You introduced me as that in front of her, and she was appalled. She said, how can you, Gareth, firstly, that's disgusting. And Leanne, how can you let him do that? So I said, well, because it's basically true. So there we are. And, you now have to go for these mammograms, and if there are any abnormalities in your uterus, they just remove it. You do just have a hysterectomy.
They just take the whole thing out.
They just take it out, and the ovaries. Apparently, with again someone who's never had children, it's not a massive up because my uterus will be small. It's like the size of a lemon, as opposed to what they call a 16-week uterus. That would be a woman who's maybe had 2 kids. Then that's like a bigger up. So I might have that done. Not sure yet. But apparently that's the best thing, because then you can do what you like with the topical and drug hormones that you take.
Jesus.
So, yeah, here we are.
Wow. Okay, well, I mean...
And,
hey, listen, part of the fun of having worked with you for so long is that we all get to share in these things as they start happening to people. I put out a video yesterday, which James threw onto, I think, Instagram and X, where I said, this whole idea of going, getting older, having different stuff happen to you that was cool to talk about when you were 20, and how things that you want to talk about now are totally different. I mean, I look at, many of the people in my life who used to be these wild, crazy people, and now their favorite thing is gardening, for example, or whatever. And it sounds bad, and unless you're the one in it, because in the change, it's exciting. It's novel. It's part of a new chapter you haven't written yet. I think that's quite exciting,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not something to be scared of anymore. Before, hormone replacement therapy was considered dangerous, and that was because of people not knowing about hormone balances and that sort of thing. I see you're going to be on the Devi show yourself, so you can... No,
I mean, if she'll probably have me on to accost me about calling me barren, but that's the only reason I would ever be on Devi's show. Listen, I haven't seen her show in so long. She is still doing it, right?
I think so. I do see snippets online. But
so I watched TV. I watched TV on my home TV this week, which I haven't done in ages. I haven't done that in years. I mean, you need a world event, right? So the only reason that I would turn on my TV, and I had to dust off the remote and replace the batteries. That's how long ago I used it.
Yeah.
I put my TV on to watch Argentina play England on Wednesday night.
We know you're an Argentina fan.
Absolutely, and I backed them 100%. And, people were surprised, people who don't know me. They're like, but obviously you would support England. Not a chance. I don't know where anybody got that idea. But there were a couple of people online. And you know what was so nice about it is I didn't feel any. You usually have that compulsion because we've had this for about we've been having it for like 10, 15 years where we have to share everything that we're doing. I like keeping stuff that I really love and want to talk about for this show. I don't want to be putting it on X or on Instagram, and I do occasionally put stuff up there, but it's really for a different audience. I don't think those people come and listen to the show, and maybe they don't care. But it was so cool to watch the game without like being on a second screen. I didn't have any other distractions. And if you see, like, there are a couple of trends that are happening at the moment. I put this into yesterday's daily briefing about how a lot of Gen Z kids, they're adults, are now doing everything they can to get away from this always online culture. So it's not just, other generations, older generations, but, young people are like, I don't need to be online all the time. I don't need to be sharing this stuff with everybody. It's actually really special if you don't. And that is really a big change for at least the last 10 or 15 years. That's what we've done with everything. Everything that happens to you, whether it's good, bad, interesting, you try to share things with people. I had this conversation with someone yesterday too during a meeting, and I said, well, content is worthless these days. It's rapidly approaching the value of zero. This is especially because everyone is now a content creator, and unless you differentiate yourself in a spectacular way, you're just one of the herd. And once everybody's doing something, it's not cool anymore. Once everybody is taking part, and once the playground is absolutely chock full of kids all doing the same thing, you don't want to play it anymore.
Yeah. I've picked it up in my workplace. As you know, I work with many Gen Zs. And, I'm finding that I'm using AI more than they are.
Wow.
So,
okay.
So when they ask me something, because I'm like the walking encyclopedia there, I'm like their Google. So they'll ask me something and I'll say,
okay, wait, because you know stuff and they have to Google stuff. Do you see all these videos? We'll get back to your story in a second, but do you see by the way, I was admonished for being very interrupty the last time you were on, so I'm extra aware of it now. But while I'm thinking of this, do you ever watch those videos of like people on the street that get asked in interviews for simple questions like, what's the definition of this? Where's the capital of that? All that kind of shit. And nobody knows the answers. I mean, they obviously find the dumbest people they can. It makes for better for better entertainment. But these people, most people in the world, Joe Rogan, he has to keep Jamie, look this up, because he doesn't keep any information in his head. So you are the walking encyclopedia in your office because you come from this bizarre, weird other dimension where you actually had to know things. It's bizarre.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
so you're saying?
So I often say to them, they'll ask me a question and I'll say, just use ChatGPT, put it into ChatGPT, because I'm rushed. I don't have time to give them an answer. And so I tell them to just go to ChatGPT, and they all look at me now and say, we don't want to. We want to learn. We want to try it ourselves.
Yeah.
So, if I'll say, I don't know how to answer this email. I say, put it into ChatGPT. No, I rather want to think about it. So that matches what your point was.
How often do you use ChatGPT on a day?
Every few seconds. I run all of my programs through AI. I run all of my strategies, my reporting, all my big projects are run through AI. Yes, that's exactly it.
Just read it so everybody who's listening knows.
The quote says, "That's what Ass does," from Congo Chris. She drinks and she knows things.
By the way, nice to see Congo Chris back in the comments. I put up something last week that everybody was asking, where is Congo Chris? Because he went quiet for a little while. So welcome back, dude. Anyway, going back to ChatGPT and how often you use it. I'm working with this company now called Cohesion X. Okay, these guys are so ahead of the game. They are building agents which do all the stuff that you just spoke about with, checking all your projects through ChatGPT or whatever. And they are able to factor in Grok, ChatGPT, Claude, all of the models, Gemini. They use the whole lot, and then they kind of compete across all of them to find the best answer. And it is wild how much can be done now. And obviously, still scratching the surface, because for the purposes for which I would use it, I'm not doing military grade technology, so I don't need to be thinking 5 or 10 years in advance like some people do. But it is, and these guys are a South African company that do they do all the private, agentic AI. But the thing that they do is they essentially build the hardware. There's an actual device that lives there, and they unplug it because for security reasons, there's a whole lot of documents that their clients have, legal, HR, all that kind of thing, that you don't want to put into the internet version of the AI, because then you have no control over that information anymore. Yeah. And it blew my mind the first time I sat with them in a meeting, and they told me like what they do and what they can do, because honestly, like we're just at the most tiny scratch on the surface of what's going on. It's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. No, it's amazing. And I think I said it when AI started, and everyone was a bit scared of it, or they felt it was cheating. And I used that analogy of the traveling salesman with the encyclopedias, who, when map books came out, was he then cheating? When Yellow Pages came out and he used that, was he cheating? When telephones and internet came out and then Google, was he cheating?
No, you just got to use what you... Imagine not having a hammer and you want to put a nail through a piece of wood. I mean, it's just a tool. And there will be people who use it better, and there'll be people who use it worse, and there will be people who use it for absolutely everything, which is also fine. But there are going to be a number of use cases. Interestingly enough, there seems to be a bit of a fight back from, for the longest time we've heard how it's going to take people's jabs, and people are going to lose their jabs. And now the experts are starting to say, no, it's going to create more jobs. And some people are betting very heavily on the fact that it's actually going to improve and increase employment, not the opposite way, which is fantastic. If that turns out to be the way things go, then obviously these doom mongers are going to be the same group of people who've been warning us about, climate change and everything's going to give you cancer. They went through, interesting, this cancer thing just came up. They went through every food group. There's this group in California who are like just tired of bullshit on the internet. They went through every kind of food that there is, and they found a piece of legit scientific research that proves everything gives you cancer and everything doesn't give you cancer. So basically you can ignore the lot. I mean, you've seen this thing now about sunscreen, right? And how it turns out that a lot of the zinc-based sunscreens, we talked about this on the show the other day, that's also bullshit. So a lot of the things that we've taken super seriously, always the doom stuff, the apocalypse now stuff, turns out that most of that stuff is just, it's working on this primitive, dumb part of all of us, which just wants to be frightened. And, these are dumb primates, mammals who are like hiding in trees, just scared of everything. And that's the part they appeal to with this doom stuff.
Yeah. No, I think if anything, I hope, because I'm seeing from AI that I am being fed 90% of the time accurate information.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that the more people who start using it will become enlightened in that way, and start disbelieving the myths and realizing things like MSG is not going to kill you and all of those sorts of things.
No. Yeah, no, absolutely. All right. So there's a bit going on in the news this week. There's been quite a lot going on in the news this week. Anything that caught your eye?
Oh, well, it's just been football and Wimbledon. It's just been sporting. I think it's just been great. Yes, I'm one of those women who've become obsessed with Haaland.
Oh, yeah. How awesome is he, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just been nice to get involved in all of that again. I haven't watched Wimbledon in a long time. So I literally had to Google the players and start learning about them again. Fascinating. So yeah, that was
good.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing that in the middle of our winter, it's actually really conducive for us to watch all of these European and Northern Hemisphere sports, because we're like cozy at home. If you're lucky enough to have a fire or at least a heater or a blanket, it's like the best thing to watch this stuff. I watched a little bit, quite a lot. I didn't watch the whole thing though, of the Wimbledon's men's final, which was excellent. And then of course this week, there were the semi-finals on, and it's all come to the most incredible head. It's just great how this panned out. And conspiracy theorists will say, oh, it was planned from the beginning. And I always go, well, if it was planned from the beginning, why didn't you put money on Polymarket or something and, get your 100,000 rand right at the start of the match? If all these people are like, oh no, it was definitely, FIFA want Argentina to win and they wanted Spain in the final. And so if you were so smart and you knew this from the beginning, put some money on it. Let me feel the fiber of your fabric, Turkish.
Yeah, 100%. And I've also seen these theories of whatever the logo looks like, or the logo's colors that it carries, FIFA's logo for the World Cup.
Oh yeah, they've predicted that's
flag,
how yeah.
Wins. Oh my gosh. Yes, Tour de France. Been watching Tour de France too, Dr. Robin. There was a massive crash yesterday, and there are people who are out of the race. I know this is your favorite topic, Gareth.
Okay. I'm not going to interrupt. Go on.
There was lots of torn lycra and roasties and shoulders out of sockets. Massive crash yesterday involving the yellow jersey. But yeah, that's been fun to watch too. And, it reminds me of my dad a lot, who I lost quite recently. So it's very nostalgic, and been enjoying doing that with my mom. But yeah.
Have you noticed
your favorite sport?
I think, yeah, but I know it's your favorite sport, but I've noticed it seems that there are fewer people on the road now on bikes because it's winter, maybe. I'm not sure. Carl dos Santos says, I'd rather Julius Malema plait my pubic hair than watch the Tour de France. I'm with you, dude. I am so with you. Yeah, that's my take on this as well. But am I just imagining it? Or maybe I'm not up as early every morning, because I used to be up at like 4:30 Monday to Friday. As you guys know, you were as well. That's when we did the show. And now I get up once a week at that ungodly hour, and it's so fantastic. I mean, I actually genuinely look forward to the show. I don't know when we started doing this, but we should have started like 2 years before that. In the early mornings, though, you would see tons of people, even in winter, on those bikes early in the morning, hitting the road. I suppose that's the only time people have to do it, right? Because they have to get to work.
Not only that, it's traffic. It's the fact that taxis are driving where cyclists are riding in the yellow lane. So that's a massive thing. I just find that taxis have become more and more reckless. I don't know, maybe it's my old age, but I wouldn't want to be on the roads. But I'm a little bit out of the cycling loop. And in fact, people who were in the Tour de France a few years ago as competitors who I grew up with, the likes of Daryl Impey, South African.
Right.
He's now managing a team in this year's. He's like a retired cyclist now. So I'm out of the loop of where everyone's training and what time they're training. But I think if anything, it's got to do with recklessness on the road. It's really, really scary. You've got to pick your spot where you train.
I see a nice compliment here from Juliana, who also looks pretty good, saying, "Oh my God, Leigh Ass looks gorgeous this morning." Yeah, I mean, listen, Ass has come along. I remember when you pitched up on the show once, and I said, "Why have you tarted up?" But now you tart up for us every morning. You even said this morning you strapped on a bra this morning. Okay. Oh, look, you can still do that. You're not completely menopausal.
Oh no, my hips are great.
And you can still do your Shakira impersonation. Yeah, they are. I'm sure they are. I went to. I got a weird thing happen to me this week, which hasn't happened in ages. You know when you get that funny kind of pre-migraine thing, and you can't really see properly and all that. Yeah, the visual stuff. I didn't get. Thank fuck, I didn't get the headache. I think I just overdid it on Wednesday afternoon, and then I had to record my daily briefing. So I was sitting here recording, and like the screen was starting to do this, and I got through it. Thank fuck, but. I felt so sorry for Janine, who had to edit it afterwards. I said to her, "Oh my God, I don't know how you're going to make sense of this." And then what I did is I just went and lay down for like an hour and a half. After that, I woke up and I was fine. It's funny that it came back suddenly though, and I can't help thinking it's like it's overdoing stuff, maybe too much caffeine. I'm not entirely sure on what that might be, but there are funny things that they're able to figure out now with blood tests that if you go for too many of these things, they'll discover stuff that you didn't even know was wrong and you just want to stay away from anyway. So I'm not a fan of, I know you're a fan of this, of going to doctors and getting the whole battery of tests that you were talking about earlier. Because sometimes they find out a bunch of stuff that you actually better off not knowing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's that guy, what's his name? Now I'm allowed to forget things, which is great. Got a good excuse. The guy who's super healthy and he's trying to live forever, and now his son's like
Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson.
Thank you. You know what's happened with him now?
No.
So who wanted to live forever, they've found that he has a rare autoimmune disease, and
Jesus,
it's possibly going to end his life sooner than he thought. And
oh
a
my
lot
God.
of naysayers have said, "Oh, well, yeah."
I just want to say, like this proves what I think you and I both agree on. It's like, enjoy your fucking life. You don't know, something's going to come around the corner. We always used to use Lance Armstrong as the example before he was outed as like this cheater and all that. And I know he wasn't, so let's not go down that angle of things. But if you live your life and you always eat the like boiled chicken and the broccoli, and you wake up every morning at 4 a.m. and you're one of those optimizers, and then you get like an autoimmune disease, I just go, what was the point? You didn't get any advantage over someone who lies around eating ice cream from a tub every night. Mm-hmm. You don't have any advantage. They're probably going to outlive you. And what did you do it for? You didn't get to see your friends. You didn't get to ever have a drink of alcohol. You never did anything that broke the rules. You were like trying to be perfect. And then this comes and it like smashes you in the face. It feels really, really awful. And it's not a I told you so thing. I just almost want to rewind for those people and say, now that you know this is going to happen, enjoy what you've got, right? Go fucking ballistic. Do all the things.
Yeah, it feels that way. But, then there are the the naysayers with this in this case who are saying, "Oh, well, yeah, he kind of deserves it because he thought he was so perfect, and look at him, he's not." And he's like, "I welcome people who laugh at me. I didn't promise that I was going to live forever or that nothing was going to happen to me. This was a big experiment." He was just kind of going with it.
I mean, Carl says that Brian Johnson is going to die from an air filter falling on his head. Even his disease is auto. Yeah, listen, you're allowed to take a little bit of kind of schadenfreude, I suppose, when anyone who does better than you anywhere in anything, like someone who's smarter than you, better looking than you, younger than you, more successful than you can, and we can't help it. We just do this as people. You feel like you've somehow won when they lose. But I love the fact that there are people in the world who are pushing the frontiers, who are trying to discover. Who knows that Brian Johnson hasn't at least advanced the idea of longevity by a fraction. And if he's done that for all of humanity. He's put himself through very strange processes, and he's lived this awful regimented life. So I wouldn't want that for me. And I take no pleasure in the fact that he's been diagnosed with something. I didn't know this until you told me this morning. But at the same time, I kind of go, thanks, dude. You did this so we don't have to.
Yeah, I feel grateful to him because I know that people are learning from all the tests that are being run on him. And, he's a walking experiment. So, thanks, because I wasn't going to do that. That's for sure.
I thought that was what you were talking about with your battery of tests.
No, definitely not.
Okay, yeah. Let's look at a couple of other things that are happening in the universe because there is so much going on at the moment. And also in the comments, I see from Morgs of Cape Town, diagnosis is a spell. So many people are fine and then they get a diagnosis and are sick and die months later. Yes, this does happen. I mean, I do believe in the power of the mind, but at the same time, there are physical realities that you just have to deal with. And part of me is like, oh, well, better to know. And the other part of me is what I expressed just now, where I said, I don't want to know all the stuff. Don't look for shit where there isn't trouble, because if you seek, ye shall find. Right?
Yeah, but also look at the order there. People are fine. They get a diagnosis. They're sick. They die months later. So what's the other order? People are fine. They get sick. They get a diagnosis, and then they die. I'd rather have the diagnosis earlier so that I can try and alleviate symptoms before they start.
Zamalek is the water of immortality, according to Congo Chris. I mean, there's a lot to be said for the fact that we come from a long line of alcoholics. Certainly Western European humans. So if you're what, your ancestors were drinking, and everybody in the world was drinking at a certain time, even the Muslims. But let's just look at the Watts, because I've studied this history. In Europe, you could not drink from the wells and the rivers because you would get sick and die. And the worst thing you could get was like a bacterial infection because there was no medicine for that. And the chances of you dying from a stream in kind of northern KwaZulu-Natal in the 1600s, much, much lower than dying from drinking from the Seine River in France, So our ancestors, in order to get their required amount of liquid, let alone water, they had to drink alcohol. They'd boil water occasionally, but who wants to drink water that's been boiled on an open fire? Your clothes smell after that. Anyway, so drinking, the ones who survived were the ones who drank. So there is an argument that's going on at the moment about how people who are alive today, who are the descendants of Western Europeans, and obviously the ones who didn't survive are not descendants because they're not here. Those people have developed not just a propensity for alcoholism, which is obviously a problem. You have lots of people who have massive drinking problems all over the world, but you also have a certain amount of drinking tolerance, and probably your body has, through evolution over many generations, your genes have identified the beneficial aspects of that as well as the negative ones. Some things they can do nothing about, but they have developed an ability to make some of it useful to you. And I've always been a massive fan of, I have no scientific data to prove this, but I have been a massive fan for a long time of social binge drinking and then not drinking the rest of the time. And it seems to be working for my, my general
constitution.
my constitution. Yeah, it kind of works for that. And I don't miss it if I don't drink, which is good, because the minute you do something because you need to, or because it's a habit and you're addicted, that's never a good thing. Bronwyn Spring says, have you seen the interviews online of the 100-year-old grannies and how they lived? They drank regularly, ate chocolate, and napped. Well, yeah. And the diet is obviously a big part of that. But we talked about longevity before. Number one thing is as many meaningful human connections, relationships as you possibly can have, you must have. That is the only overarching factor that makes all the others look like small fry by comparison.
Yeah, I'd say even beyond human. Okay, human I'd put first, those relationships, but another big factor is even your relationships with your pets or having a pet.
Sure.
Just giving you that sense of purpose, that routine, getting up, having someone dependent on you, something dependent on you.
That's all hugely important. I also spoke to a friend of mine the other day. He's got 2 little girls, and they didn't have pets for a long time. And there's also a beneficial arrangement that goes on there, which people maybe don't realize until they get pets if you've never had them. That is that there are certain immunities that you build up. The kids who've never had pets are the same ones who everything has to be sterilized around there. They're allergic to everything. They start sniffing and coughing the minute anything in their environment isn't filtered. I mean, you can't be weak and fragile like that. And pets are like it's a metered dose of certain things that stop you from becoming like one of those snotty, pain in the ass kids. You have to have germs in your environment, rather have the safe germs in inverted commas than the dangerous ones, right?
Well, I mean, look at kids who've grown up on farms. They've done studies on that.
Yeah.
There's
Much
certain
healthier.
children in many cultures. So you're looking at your Afrikaans Buddha kids. You're looking at your black maize farmers having goats on your farm and all sorts of livestock, and being exposed to that. Drinking
why did you bring up goats? I hate goats.
Eating those eggs straight from the chicken, drinking from the cow. No.
you mentioned farming. So we've got these friends who live in the Free State, and we've been family friends of theirs for years. Beautiful farm near Philippolis, couple of farms actually, and they cultivate the finest lamb in the whole world. Right? They are coming. Villy's coming up here he's donating a sheep for this thing called Lamb Champs. Have you heard of this?
No.
Oh my God, they do this big thing in Pretoria where all the best sheep from all over the country come, and then everybody gets to taste it. And you don't have to ask me twice about going to eat lamb, right? So he's coming up, I think it's next weekend, and I'm going to Pretoria for Lamb Champs. Do you know how excited I am?
Are they bringing the animals up live?
I think they slach them on the farm. I'm pretty sure they do.
Oh, okay. Because that's a bit weird.
Don't get all squeamish on me. You know where meat comes from.
No, I know, but I thought it's something that I would enjoy, but not if it's like, this is Charlie, he's the sheep that was born, and then you eat Charlie,
No,
not
man.
into that. I don't really want to see that.
I thought this would interest you. I heard something interesting the other day on the internet about how different words came from when the Normans conquered England. So English people before the Normans used to say sheep, and then because the Normans spoke French, they called it mouton, which is where mutton comes from, and bœuf instead of beef because it was cow, and pork instead of pig, and it used to be like a class difference. So if you were a peasant, you'd say pig and cow and sheep. And and chicken, obviously. And if you were smart and your ancestors had conquered the other people, then you would say mutton, beef, poultry, that kind of thing. So it's an interesting. Obviously, now it doesn't count nearly as much, but you can still see it in the way that we speak. I love those linguistic videos that come up every now and then in my feed, which teach me things about the etymology of words. It's fat. I'll never get bored with that shit. I literally will go down a rabbit hole and spend 3 hours watching videos like that and not even realize the time has gone by. It's crazy.
Yeah, love that. You know that. Yeah, there's, and I thought it was something that everyone knew or would have an automatic interest in, but there are people who do not give a shit about words. They just don't care. They don't care about the meaning of them.
Isn't there an argument to be made that because AI is essentially still basically large language models, that's the major underlying foundation of so much of it, that it is in your interest to know how language works if you want to get the best out of an LLM? Surely that alone should be motivation for people. It's fascinating. Second, it's the second kind of degree reason to listen to it. But it's just, language is fucking wild. It's amazing. And obviously if you know more than one language, it's even better. Gareth, I'm the same with lesbian porn, says Carl DeSantos. What a coincidence. 2 hours gone. Carl, I know you're kidding, but
that's a lot of time to be watching porn.
2 hours? Like, how long?
Surely you only need a few minutes.
Oh my God. Who needs that much time, Carl? Unless you're setting aside the afternoon to kind of just, give yourself a treat or so. I don't know how this works.
Yeah, I don't know if I could watch porn for like 2 hours. I don't have a need to do that.
I'll be honest with you, I haven't watched any of that shit for a long time. And by a long time, I mean at least a few weeks. I just, you have these periods in your life where you kind of are into something and then you're not. And for me, it's way more pronounced. So I'll be into a certain subject or into a hobby or designing something or writing or creating something, and then everything else just shrinks into the distance. I think guys are better at this than girls, that we can completely pour ourselves into one thing and forget about everything else. And sometimes I know I should be paying attention to some other stuff, but I'm so absorbed by, again, it could be designing stuff. I've spent an inordinate amount of time doing that lately. And this is not a job. This is not stuff that's going to earn me money. But I'm so into it that I find myself doing it all the fucking time. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, of course, it's being hyper-focused on something.
Yeah.
And you lose attention. And so it's not a male versus female thing. It's an ADHD.
Yeah, but there's studies now that it's fairly conclusively proven that men become far more absorbed by a task, particularly if it's a mechanical or a thing task as opposed to a people task. Like women have the ability to focus on social relations in a way men never can. Men think, oh, well, I've spent a lot of time patching up these relationships and paying attention to my significant other. And guys think they're doing that, but they're nowhere near at the operating ability of a woman when it comes to that stuff. It's not possible. You know what I'm talking about? There are differences.
To knit together the stories of menopause this morning and hyper-focused interest in activities. I had the amazing opportunity, which I'm saying very sarcastically, of taking my aunt, which is every few months, to a shop called Arthur Bale's in Linden in Johannesburg, which is a wool and embroidery and knitting and fabric and sewing shop. Yeah. And let me tell you, it's a cultural experience going to this place, especially on a Saturday. So off we go with her and her walking stick and her backpack and everything else to go with a long list of things from my mom. Wool, we've got jersey patterns. We know what colors we need to get. We know that my mom wants to recover the dog's basket. So we need dog fabric, certain knitting needles, what crochet sizes. That place, there isn't a scent to a place like that, but you can almost smell the menopause. It is filled to the brim with confused women. All of these women they are all scratching their heads.
Look at you doing all of this. You're basically running a one-man old age home here, you.
Yes.
Looking after these old ladies.
These women don't know what color to find. They're torn between fabrics. They're intrigued by a new wool that's hit the market. The one's going to Cape Town, but there's a sale in 2 weeks' time. She doesn't know whether to
What's the shop called?
Arthur Bales.
I've never heard of it. That's amazing. You've just taught me something amazing. I mean, I'll never use this information, but I'm delighted to know it. All right, listen, I've got some. I meant to have mentioned this at the start of the show, but we got Maponyane coming on later on, who's always great. Love seeing Maps. It's going to be great to catch up with him. So he's on his way. But I actually have an amazing guy on called Dr. Ray, who I spoke to a little while ago. There are obviously lots of doctors who are now well versed in the language of GLP-1s and all the rest of it. But I found Dr. Ray. We had a meeting about he's got his own podcast. He's doing some stuff on social media. But basically, he is the guy when it comes to this. And I think people are so interested in this subject. There was news this week about a certain South African company that had to withdraw and recall a bunch of their GLP-1s. And I thought it would be a good idea to get him on because, there are lots of people in South Africa for health reasons, or sometimes I would hope the major reason would be health, but there are a lot of people who want to lose weight for all kinds of other reasons, which obviously come back to health. But there are lots of reasons to do this stuff, and I thought it would be a great idea to talk to Dr. Ray. The FDA has just approved a new once daily pill, so people might not have to do the injections anymore as things change and develop. So I thought, great idea to get Dr. Ray on, and he's based in Cape Town. Find out a little bit about him first. But do you want to meet him, Ass?
Oh, I'd love that.
All right, let's bring him on. Where's Dr. Ray? There he is. Hello, Dr.
Morning,
Ray.
guys. How's it going?
Lekker, how are you?
Good, man. Can't complain. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. I'm sorry about the crappy intro about GLP-1s, but I mean, that is your area at the moment, and you are you're creating you're developing and growing a reputation for this stuff, and it is the most interesting area of modern medicine. I mean, I don't think it's much of an argument to say that this is the substance that has revolutionized in the last 10 years. I can't think of another medical application that has done as much as GLP-1s have across the board. Am I wrong?
No, 100% correct. It's so interesting because, GLP-1s, they're such an incredible class of medication, and when used correctly and monitored correctly, it really has such profound effects on, and we're learning so many new things as more research is coming out, but there's so many profound effects systemically across the body, more than just weight loss. I mean, with the weight loss comes a bunch of different, advantages, but there are certain sort of research articles that's coming out now regarding peptides and, being sort of a protective nature for cancer. So it's still early stages, granted, but it's just one of those things where people can now feel so much more confident in themselves, in their bodies, their self-image improves. And, obviously just from a metabolic perspective, metabolic dysfunction is one of the biggest things that's plaguing our population at the moment. When we talk about insulin resistance, I see so much of that in our practice. So it's just an incredible class of medication.
Gareth, you're on mute.
Sorry. Let's just talk about you for a second, and then we'll get into the GLP-1s in a moment. But how you've been practicing in Cape Town as a doctor, a GP for a while. What got you interested in this area of specialization?
Well, it's interesting because I actually was in emergency medicine previously, and there you're very much reactive, right? So you're responding to like emergencies. You're doing, ICDs, intercostal chest drains for people coming with the stab wounds from Delft and Kaya, and it's like hectic and it's
Stop it! You're getting Leanne excited. That's what she loves more than anything else. Emergency medicine. She likes the arms chopped off, the hole in the head, the panga in the back. That's her shit.
Yeah.
Putting out fires.
Yeah, so I was very active and I loved it, right? But I started seeing like the same sort of patients come through the door, and I started to get to know their families, the names of their cats and dogs, because there was just no patient education. The preventative side of things was completely missing. And I feel like that's just the part where I used to take maybe 2 minutes just with the patient to explain a bit of lifestyle changes, when it comes to these COPD patients who come in constantly, especially throughout the winter. With these acute exacerbations, and you'd have to neb them. You tell them to taper down on the smoking, make some lifestyle changes, lose some weight, etc.
Sure.
And you just start seeing the same sort of thing. The hard stuff, right? Very difficult.
No one wants to do that stuff now. And if you have, everybody's always talked for years about this magic pill, and it isn't a pill, but it could be very soon. The FDA has just approved one. But this has changed people's lives. I mean, Leanne is on a GLP-1, and I know 4 other people who are on it at the moment. So let's get into that quickly. And I do want, there are a couple of questions here in the comments too. A lot of people just saying that they want to, Lakadung, I want to go to this doctor. And I could listen to Dr. Ray.
I think we do need to address that because it is like unfolding a lot in the comments. So I'll help out with that.
Okay, go.
Thanks to producer Janine, who did not warn me about what was about to come onto the screen. So I am blushing. We are dealing with a very particularly good-looking doctor here, people. But you get
a lot of patients hitting on you, Dr. Ray.
No, never happened at all.
Sure. All right.
But,
okay, well, let's just go back to GLPs for a second. So this is obviously an incredible and breakthrough technology. And it came about because they were trying to, as I recall, they were trying to figure out a way to help either the kidneys, or they were trying to sort out something to do with uptake of certain insulin drugs, and this was a byproduct. And then they discovered, oh well, look, it has all these other benefits. So it belongs to a group of drugs called peptides, which have become very en vogue at the moment. What's the latest development there, and what can you tell even those of us who are very unversed in all of this stuff about the general class of drugs that these belong to?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's important to understand that peptides are really not a new thing. So I think it was in the early 1920s when the first peptide was discovered, and that was insulin. So insulin's been used widely, So when we talk about peptides, it's such a nuanced conversation. So we've got peptides that have been out for decades, right? And very well studied, very well researched, great effects, obviously some side effects. And then you've got the newer class of peptides that doesn't really have that much research, and we can get into that if you want to, as to why that is. But, when it comes to the GLP-1 drugs, it was initially approved for diabetes because it increased your ability to secrete insulin, become more insulin sensitive. And the side effect of it, right, was that it switched off people's appetites, right? So this was Ozempic, semaglutide, right? It switched people's appetites off. They started losing weight. So they were like, okay, great, I want Ozempic, but I'm not diabetic. So how do we do it? And then it was started to become sort of a more off-label use drug. So off-label meaning that it wasn't intended for that use, but the side effect caused something that we intend to do, like we want for the patient. So it was just an incredible discovery, obviously. And then from there, just, a bunch of other peptides have come forth in the market, particularly due to social media, influencers, fitness influencers using these peptides. And I mean, if we think as to why, in 2023, the FDA sort of just banned 19 peptides. So from about 2013 to 2023, peptides like, the more, I would say the peptides that are sort of people not too sure about, it's not really well researched, but great anecdotal data and animal studies have been done in it. So like the BBC 157s, TB 500s, you've probably heard of that. A lot of those peptides were just suddenly banned in 2023. So people were like, okay, they must probably do something, right? So why are they banning it? And then, obviously with RFK pushing peptides now recently in the States and trying to get them off category 2, which is like compounders can't compound it anymore, to category 1 where they can compound it. There's just been more and more talk about peptides. So that's why it's sort of blown up in the last couple of months.
I mean, that's really useful background for people who might know a little bit or don't know anything. But I hear lots of people in my circles talking about retatrutide, and there are others as well. I mean, they're developing new ones all the time, right?
Yeah.
What do they do?
So, retatrutide, one of the most, incredible compounds, probably. I mean, it's going to be $1 trillion drug for sure. And the reason why it hasn't been released yet is just, come on, it's just call a spade a spade. It's because there's financial incentive for Eli Lilly to rather have it as a what's called a biologic versus a peptide, because then they can patent it for 15 years and they can control the rights for it, and no compounder can ever compound it. You have to go straight through to the pharmacy and get it. Big pharma, yeah. So that's what's going on at the moment with FDA and Eli Lilly. There's a court case surrounding that. But retatrutide is essentially a class of GLP-1 medications. It's the latest class. So when you look at semaglutide,
Sorry, Leanne, you didn't know this, but Dr. Ray is actually 68 years old, and he's been on retatrutide for a while. So that's how he looks so good. So this is why we need to talk to him, right?
Sure.
No. Oh my gosh. Can we get serious, guy?
I love how you get all you have to deal with people who have revolting diseases, and they come into you with bad breath and assholes that are broken and all kinds of terrible things, and you get all like you get all shy and embarrassed when we talk about you. I love it. All right, let's just talk about how what the secondary benefits are, because we all know it can help people lose weight. It can help them prevent type 2 diabetes if they catch it early enough. It can do lots of really good things. And we know in South Africa, massive heart disease problems, a lot of them caused by obesity or comorbidities with obesity. So obviously those advantages are pretty much understood by the vast majority of us. What are the new benefits that they're starting to discover around these things?
Interesting. So when it comes to retatrutide, because it's a triple agonist, it's not the same as your semaglutide or tirzepatide. So semaglutide is just attacking one receptor, which is the GLP-1 receptor, which slows your gastric emptying, obviously secretes insulin and obviously helps with diabetes and weight loss. Then, they added another compound to it called GIP, and that's tirzepatide now. So GLP-1 plus GIP is tirzepatide. It's a dual agonist, and that essentially also helped with increased insulin sensitivity, secretion of insulin, as well as basically told your body to stop storing fat. But it didn't help with sort of muscle preservation, and that's the biggest factor for us.
Okay.
Then retatrutide came out, and they added a compound called glucagon. So they keep adding these compounds, right? There's a fourth one currently in development at the moment, believe it or not. But they added glucagon, and glucagon essentially told your body to break down fat. pulled fat from your cells through a process called lipolysis, and glucagon also, essentially helps, through a process called gluconeogenesis. So it pulls the stored sugar out of your cells, and your body utilizes that for energy. This was a lot more muscle sparing than the other compounds, because of course you've seen people on GLP-1s who, they're very they lost a lot of muscle. They don't look great because of the fact that they haven't preserved their muscle. So they have this Ozempic faces, right? And retatrutide solved that problem because it was more muscle sparing.
Okay.
When it comes to retatrutide, we have to be careful because there's certain, it's still in development at the moment. It's finished its phase 3 trials for sure, right? They're still researching it. It hasn't been released yet, right? So there's new research always coming out. There's some cancer protective benefits, cardiovascular protective benefits. Systemically, we are seeing more than just a weight loss drug now. We are seeing a compound now that is shown to improve basically every sort of, from a systemic level, a lot of different processes in your body becoming more efficient. And it's just an incredible compound. And I'm very excited for what's to come.
MM asks in the comments, how do peptides affect leptin long term?
So it's interesting. I mean, when it comes to certain peptides like the GLP-1s, over time, you have to be careful because we've seen people gain weight back. So after a period of, so they go on a peptide like a GLP-1 for about 2 years, and they tend to gain it back if they do not change their lifestyle. So yes, it doesn't affect it to that degree that we want it to. So it doesn't completely change your physiology forever. So it's not like you take the GLP-1 for a period of time, it changes completely, your physiological mechanisms in your body changes, and now you don't have to take it anymore. You still have to implement the hard work. You have to train, you have to eat your protein, you have to do the hard work. These peptides are not magic drugs, right? They're accelerators, they're amplifiers. So we have to maintain that optimization pyramid where the base of the pyramid is not peptides. The base of the pyramid is your foundation, your hard work, your training, your diet, your exercise, right? Your sleep. Above that, right at the top of the pyramid is peptides, right? We have to think like that. We can't think top down, we think bottom up. And that's how we implement these things in our clinic every single day.
So what about this new pill? Because one of the reasons that I've never really seriously considered it is because I just hate the idea of injecting myself. I know that there are people who have diabetes and other things that have to inject every day. So they're probably used to it. I'm sure they don't love it, but they still have to do it.
Yeah.
They're actually bringing out a once daily pill. This is again, Eli Lilly. I mean, this will change things too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So they managed to compound or formulate a way so the peptide lasts and survives the gut. So when it comes to peptides in general, the reason why we do a subcutaneous injection is to eliminate the ability of our gastric juices to just break it down completely. Right. So when you administer it subcutaneously, it just goes straight from your fat into your bloodstream and gets absorbed. Right. But with the gastric juice, it just destroys the peptide. Most of them, I would say, like there's certain peptides that can survive the gut. So this does change the game dramatically because now you've got people who are needle phobic. There's also another mechanism where they're actually doing needleless injections, where they use like sort of compressed air. That's something you can look at, Gareth. So sort of like this compressed air chamber that shoots it directly into your subcutaneous layer instead of having the needle there. So
like a fart
I'm really happy. Yeah, exactly.
All right. I'm just looking at the numbers here quickly. I know Leanne's got some questions for you too, but 11% of adults in the US report using a GLP-1 this year. It's up 3% from 2024. US adult obesity has dropped to 36.4%, still high, but that is described as the first statistically meaningful decline in decades, which tracks with the surge in GLP-1 use. That's interesting. Is it? So it's markedly and measurably making a difference.
Absolutely. No question. Like the question of whether these GLP-1s work that's not a conversation we should be having. We know they work, right? The more interesting question is, I think if we look at the long-term sustainable effects of these GLPs, that's something a lot of people might be interested in, because the first thing someone asks me when they come into the practice is, okay, so do I need to be on it forever? And I'm like, listen, it really depends on you. Like, I can only give you so much advice. It's a give and take here. So it really depends on you. If you reach your goal, right, you're going to gain some weight back. There's no question, being off the GLP. You are basically stimulating your receptors. You are having this crutch for a period of 6 months, 12 months, a year and a half, 2 years, whatever it is. As soon as you remove that, right, you are going to gain some weight back. How much you gain back, it's completely up to you, right? So this is where your lifestyle comes into place. So, but we know it works. There's no question.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because there are so many people who think, okay, well, this pill will just solve all my problems. And that's the case for so many pills. I mean, for the longest time, everybody thought antidepressants were helping them. It turns out that SSRIs are maybe not as efficient as people have believed they would be in actually changing people's moods. And so much of it actually does come down to you, how you live your life, what you do. Have you got questions, though, Ask? Because you're actually on this stuff.
Yeah. So, yeah, I started on due to insulin resistance and really borderline diabetes. Started on Ozempic almost a year ago. And interestingly enough, lost weight, but very slowly. I did it very slowly. I wasn't one of those who was, my titration was to book. I didn't go on any drastic diets or anything, but obviously food noise stopped. Drinking less alcohol, eating less, etc. And then interestingly enough, about 3 months ago, I noticed I was putting on weight again without any other lifestyle change. And gained a few kilograms. Then my repeat prescription ran out, so I actually came off the GLP-1 for, thanks, they're calling me a menopausal drug addict. But went off for about 5 weeks, and I actually felt terrible. Went to the doctor, got back on. So this time it's Wegovy, because it's slightly cheaper. It depends on what's going on at the time. It is slightly different to Ozempic, but immediately felt better again. And you said to me, Gareth, do I have any questions? I don't have questions. I'm not going to question something that is working so well. I feel protected. My blood pressure's better. Somebody in the office said to me the other day they'd seen that it came from lizards or something, and I just laughed at them, and they showed me this AI video. And they said, isn't it harmful? I said, no, it protects your brain, it protects your liver, it protects your kidneys, it protects your lungs. And people are still surprised by that. There's so much misunderstanding.
Does it come from lizards?
It does, yeah. It's interesting. He was right. So some AI that we look at, we're like, oh, I don't trust it, which is good. Good to have healthy skepticism. But it was actually isolated, the first GLP-1 around the 1990s from the Gila monster. You know, those lizards that are...
Oh, right. Yeah. Those things are horrifically, they're deadly, dangerous and poisonous.
Deadly, yeah. So from the venom of the Gila monster, they extracted something called, I think it's Xenodin 4. And... essentially, that was able to keep the lizard satiated for longer periods of time, right? Because the rare find of having a meal is something that they're used to. So they extracted that, and that was, the first sort of structure or blueprint for us to develop the first GLP-1. So It wasn't wrong. Yeah.
All right. So are there shortages? Because there's so many people in South Africa. Apparently, Manjaro was the #1 medicine in the country last year. It broke all new records for sales. So whichever companies are distributing whichever brand name of these various GLP-1s at the moment, they're obviously all making massive money out of that. It's the biggest money spinner. Is there enough?
So there was enough. And the reason why I said there was enough is because compounding pharmacies were allowed to compound these medications. So it's important to understand for the viewers who don't know, compounding pharmacies are essentially regulated pharmacies by SAHPRA, which is our FDA, and they are able to compound medications, and you can then, from that same active ingredient. So if we look at Wegovy, we could compound something called semaglutide, which is the same ingredient, right? But the beauty of it is that as a practitioner, I could now, instead of giving someone the standard dose of 2.5 milligrams, which is like a set dose that Eli Lilly has prescribed as a starting dose for everyone, no matter what your weight is, no matter what your age is, doesn't matter, that's the starting dose. I could now start someone on 1.5 milligrams of a compound because I can titrate it. I can turn it exactly to the number of sort of clicks on the pen that I wanted to administer for the patient. And you can do a lot more tailored sort of flexibility with a prescription. So there was, easy availability when it came to semaglutide to tirzepatide, no problem, because compounding pharmacists could do it. Now with the specific case that Gareth, you were speaking about at the beginning of the show regarding a compounding pharmacy being, implicated, in certain ways. We know the case is going on, but now a lot of these compounding pharmacies are not able to compound it anymore. So as you can see, who suffers at the end of the day? It's not us as practitioners. We can still prescribe, 2.5 milligrams, even though it sucks, to literally be limited in a way that you can't tailor your dosage. I've had patients before, compounding pharmacy. I had patients on 2.5 milligrams. The next step was go to 5, but what about 4? Why can't we just step it up slowly, right? No, you can't do that because the pen goes from 2.5 to 5. And I even called them, Eli Lilly doesn't allow it. Their pen is literally, it's meant for turning all the way to give you that exact dose and lasts specifically a month. Whereas if you use a different pen, like from a compounding pharmacy, regulated, SAHPRA approved, your pen lasts longer. So the patient does, at the end of the day, take the burn of it, which is unfortunate. But now we do see that a lot of patients have to now resort to that route because compounding pharmacies are a bit too scared, or they sort of just.
Well, I mean, okay. So how much influence do doctors like you have on SAHPRA? Because surely they should be listening to the doctors who are dealing directly with the patients. Surely they're the ones who are at the coalface of this whole thing. They should be advising SAHPRA. They shouldn't be sitting in an ivory tower making rules like this that have a very detrimental impact on people's health.
Yeah, I wish, I have to be careful what I say, but
that's the problem. That's part of the problem. I'm not blaming you, but that's part of the problem. When you have these organizations that are supposed to be helping the patient and helping the profession, and they're doing neither. I'm saying it. You're not saying it. These guys need to get out of the way sometimes.
Yeah, I think, if we look at the bigger picture, and you always have to sort of step back and look and see who benefits. And we alluded to this earlier in the conversation when it came to Big Pharma. Now, I'm not of the opinion. So you get two different camps. You get the camp of people where they are very to the book. They're like, listen, Big Pharma, the wellness industry is worth way more. Big Pharma is trying to do their job. They're FDA focused, and they think of Big Pharma in that way. Then you've got quite a large camp of people where they're like, Big Pharma is just this money hungry. They don't care about your health. They don't want us to be healthy. And they think Big Pharma is sort of like this Illuminati kind of, people.
Conspiracy theory, yeah.
Correct, yeah, they're very conspiracy theorists. And I'm not on that side either, but I do have this sort of healthy skepticism. I always say that. I always think of it, who benefits when a law is passed? Who benefits from preventative medicine? And who is hurt by it? And who's pushing the narrative, right? If you ask those questions, very clearly you'd come to your own conclusion as to, if I prevent someone from going to a pharmacy, remember there's only so much disposable income that an average household has to spend on medication. Yeah. And if someone's spending medication on a peptide, right, that prevents them from getting an anti-inflammatory, who benefits and who suffers, and who is pushing the narrative, accordingly.
All right. Are you, one of the other areas you work in, which I'm fascinated by, and it came up in the conversation between Leanne and I earlier, is longevity. And there's massive strides being made in that direction. Just this week, there was a story about the thymus, which I didn't even know was a thing. The thymus that provides a lot of the growth hormones up to puberty, and then becomes completely defunct and doesn't really serve any purpose, just becomes fatty tissue under your breastbone. At some point, we know about telomeres, the ends of the DNA strands in the chromosomes. But what are the new developments, and is there a link between peptides and potential longevity?
Yes. So I just wish there was more research. That's my only thing. I wish that there was more money to fund these trials, because it takes about $2 to $3 billion, and that's with a B, right? To fund phase 3 trials.
They're spending like $7 or $8 billion a year on nuclear fusion, which is a good spend. They're spending way more than that on data centers and AI, which may help us to come to these research conclusions quicker. But surely human healthy longevity is one of the top of the pyramid goals for all of humanity. I can't believe that they're not spending enough money on researching this stuff.
So there's always an incentive for someone to do research. If I can see at the end of this period of time, from a financial perspective, okay, I'm going to do 2 to 3 billion, no problem. And phase 3 trials, 15 years, whatever it is. If I can control that at the end of the day, no problem, I'll do it, because I've got the patent. If I cannot do that, why would I spend that kind of money on it? So no one is doing that.
I'm identifying two problem people in this equation, and it's not the doctor or the patient. The doctor and the patient are trying to work towards the same goal here, hopefully. But the people who are not are the lawyers and the accountants. These are the people who are getting in the way of progress on this very important frontier of medicine.
Absolutely. It's just very sad.
Well, fuck you, doctors. I mean, not doctors. Fuck you, lawyers, and fuck you, finance people, investor and accountant people. You are the ones who are screwing with the possibility of us living forever. How dare you?
100%. 100%. So there is mechanistically very interesting peptides. So we spoke about the telomeres, for example. There's a peptide that is out there called epitalon. And essentially what this peptide has been, or is thought to do, is lengthen those telomeres via an enzyme called telomerase. Okay, so lengthening those sort of caps now, as the cells divide, obviously, that's the cause, through a process called mitosis. Eventually, the cell dies off, right? Because it doesn't want to, if it divides again, it can possibly cause a mutation. So our body recognizes that and it dies off. So the length on those telomeres can be influenced and is thought to be influenced by a peptide called epitalon. So that's an anti sort of aging possibility that we have there.
Okay.
Then we spoke about the thymus. There's some peptides there that's derived from the thymus called TA1. And it's really cool in a way that it modulates your immune system. So if you have a very overactive immune system, someone with autoimmune conditions, it sort of modulates it to just like bring it down a bit. If someone is very sick or unwell, it sort of just brings it up again. So it's really interesting, and I just wish there was just more data than anecdotal data, which is really important. I feel like it's important to understand, and getting more data in, even from people, is fine, even though it's not a randomized control trial. But we've seen some great results with these different peptides. So yeah, it's a really interesting space.
All right, well, I could keep talking to you about this stuff because I think it is so fascinating, and it is the most exciting new area of medicine. Certainly, I say new, but in the last decade, there hasn't been anything that's evolved as quickly and has been able to hit the market and prove across thousands, if not millions of people that it is effective. Where can people find out more? And tell us about WellNest, what you guys are doing, you and some other doctors.
Sure. Yeah, so WellNest is a preventative clinic focusing on integrative medicine. So essentially, what we're doing is we're looking to optimize people, from a cellular level. So not looking at your symptoms, but purely at root causes. So a lot of our patients aren't necessarily sick. There are patients that are just looking to feel better. You got those patients who you won't look at them and like, okay, are they sick? But they'll tell you, like, I feel fatigued. I'm not optimal. I'm operating at like 40%. Like, I want to be better.
Yeah.
And that's essentially our goal. Our goal is to optimize humans using evidence-based medicine. And we've got a preventative and longevity clinic in Cape Town in Bree Street. You can, visit us at wellnest.gold, or just pop into the practice. So it'd be lovely to meet you guys.
Fantastic. All right, Doc. Really good to have you on. Thanks for talking to us, and best of luck with your Friday. We'll hopefully get you back on, because there's going to be a lot more on this stream when it comes 100%. To these drugs and what everybody's thinking about. All right, cool. Very good. So there we go.
Cheers.
Thanks, Dr. Ray.
Bye.
Awesome. Very,
Bye.
Very cool. There's Dr. Ray. Well, I told you I'd have something for you this morning, ass.
A little breakfast time snack.
Yeah, there are lots of very, very funny comments. Bronwyn says, I drink red wine to get my dose of resveratrol.
Resveratrol.
You see, I don't know what these things are, because and so everybody tells me
you'll actually find listen, it in skincare products.
I had people telling me 3 years ago that they were already on some of these drugs. People I know, well, some here and some in America. And I see great results. So, I mean, I'm in no position to criticize. But like I said to you once before, and the doctor kind of backed up this point, you still have to do the hard stuff yourself, right? It still requires enormous amounts of self-discipline, exercise, eating right. That shit's not going to go away just because there's some new drug on the market.
Yeah, and people talk about the Ozempic face and the muscle loss and all of that type of thing. Doesn't happen to everyone. And depending on whether or not you're abusing the drug and whether or not you're meeting your protein goal levels during the day, whether or not you're actually eating, there are going to be people who misuse the drug. And that's going to be the case for anything.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Just because, Ozempic face and all of this type of stuff, and the criticism of people using these drugs, even though I am a menopausal drug abuser, it's not the same for everyone. If you treat the drug right and you use it correctly, you're not going to have those horrible side effects.
Alrighty. How deep are you into this now? 5 months?
No, it's almost a year. And yeah.
Right.
I'm like 2 weeks short of. No, yeah, it's almost a year, and it's 8 months of no smoking as well.
Impressive. You haven't gone back to that either. That's good.
Not since the day I stopped.
All right. Do you want to say hello to Maponyane quickly?
Yeah, let's do it.
I know you've got to run off to work. Let's get him on quickly. All right, bring the man on. Where's Maponyane? So, of course, if you don't know who this guy is, I don't know what the hell you've been doing, but he's been a well-known face in South African media for ages, and we're going to talk to him about, among other things, inter alia, also the World Cup, because obviously there were lots of games over the last while that you would have got together with your family and friends to talk about, but Maps probably is one of the best people when it comes to talking about this stuff. Of course, I know his famous father just as well. We'll talk to him in just a second. Here he is. Hello, Maps Maponyane.
Good morning. How are you doing, guys?
Awesome, man.
Hey.
Nice to see your face. I haven't seen you in ages.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a very, very long time for us. We've got far better frequency than we've had in the last feels like a couple of years now. That never happens.
Yeah, dude. Are you good?
I'm very, very good. Very good. Enjoyed an exciting World Cup, and a very interesting World Cup. But yeah, it's great to be on the show, especially getting to speak about this. I wasn't sure if I kept getting the messages, and I was like saying to my father, I'm like, Dad, I think Gareth's trying to find you, but his team keeps messaging me to speak about the football.
Well, listen, how is the old man? Because I used to see him at my local gym. I don't go to the same gym anymore, but is he still fit and fighting and good to go?
Yeah, still fit, still strong, still. I mean, he's doing incredibly well, especially from a health perspective. And yeah, just lucky to still have him so active, and he's doing a lot of great things around sport as well, which makes him even more active. And it's quite exciting. I mean, he's really now dive deep into trying to help the kind of development side of things work out, and he's now running a clinic for top strikers, young top strikers. Amazing. That he's running around the country, which is quite cool.
Sure, that's
different
fantastic,
strikers.
man.
The ones in March to March, totally different strikers.
Yeah, no, those are different ones.
Yeah, and
all right, well. Ass, I wanted you to say hello to Mups, but I know you've got to run off to work, and we will catch up with you in a couple of days.
Ass? Did you say ass?
Leigh Ass.
Oh,
Leigh Ass.
okay.
Don't you know that's her name?
Okay.
look at her name here. Leigh Ass Mole.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, there we go. I mean, I love that they made the official menopausal drug abuser. That comment was brilliant right now. So I'm glad it's official now.
Comes up. No, if you Google her, that's the first thing that comes up, actually.
No, you're kidding.
Now it is.
All right, Ass. Have a happy day.
Have a good weekend.
Ciao. Bye. So, Mups, first of all, you've been doing so many things here. I want to talk about bridges for music in a moment or two. But let's just go straight into World Cup, because I know this is the one sporting event. I'm not a huge sports fan like you are, but man, every time this World Cup comes along, I find myself drawn in, and then I start sounding like all the people that I don't sound like the rest of the time. What a final. You couldn't wish for better with Argentina and Spain. I mean, it's almost like it's been choreographed, and there are conspiracy theorists who are always bouncing around saying, oh, well, it's been rigged from the start. But I mean, Argentina have been superb. Spain have been superb. A lot of the other teams have done extraordinarily well. I mean, you look at Norway, for example, who I became a massive Norway fan for a while.
Yeah.
France and England did quite well up until the last minute. And really, there's been plenty to watch in this World Cup, right?
Yeah, there's been, I think I was one of those that was really worried with what the World Cup was going to end up being like. And I mean, having gone to the opening games and seeing some of those duels, I was really, really impressed. I mean, especially with the atmosphere in Mexico. Mexico is absolutely unbelievable with
you were actually there in person?
Yes, I was there in person watching South Africa against Mexico in that opening game, which was much to be desired with how SA played. But the atmosphere was something like I've never experienced before. It was truly unbelievable. And those Mexican fans can party like absolutely mad partying kind of atmosphere. I mean, they will crowd their streets. I'm not sure if you saw any of the images, and they'll just absolutely pack their streets and celebrate. I think they celebrated till about 5 a.m. and with literally tens of thousands of people all lining the streets and just enjoying that first opening game victory. And there
did it take you a week to recover, by the way? Because that sounds like it's pretty wild.
It took a long time to recover.
I haven't been to Mexico City. I've been to Cancun. I went there for a wedding a while ago, but I don't know enough to know what Mexico City is. Enormous, right? It's just absolutely unfathomably huge. If you think Joburg is big, Joburg is like a tiny little dusty village town.
In comparison.
Village, not even town. I wouldn't say town by comparison. But the Mexicans are such passionate people. Everything they do big. It must have been pretty cool to be South African in Mexico.
It was really cool. And actually, you feel like a bit of a celebrity when you're there. The amount of pictures I took purely from wearing a South Africa football jersey, everyone wanted a photo. Everyone was like, just, welcoming me in. Everyone was offering their food. I mean, I remember I was at the stadium and I was in this long line for food and someone had just left the line. They're like, South Africa. And he had this amazing lamb taco in his plate. And, I asked him, "Is it good?" He's like, "Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, take mine." I'm like, "But you've just been in the line for ages." He's like, "No, man, take mine." And I was just like, "Okay,
wow.
I'll have one. I'll have one little bite of your taco. There's no need to take all of yours." But just like the offering and how many parties are happening in the various little homes and the taquerias and the food. Oh, Gareth, you'd love the food. The food is so good, and
man.
especially when you go to the food trucks and if you can get invited into one of the locals' homes, which is a constant thing. I don't know if a lot of the time was just because there aren't a lot of me there, but it was absolutely just like it was so much fun. And you mentioned Cancun, and the only excuse I can give you there is that it was for a wedding. But I've always said, like, if I go to Mexico, I don't want to go to Cancun or Tulum, right? Because you want to see the place first before you kind of go see the kind of more glamorous, touristy kind of places.
Sure.
And it really is a pretty massive behemoth of a city. But you also realize just how many similarities it does it has to a place like Joburg too, and South Africa. There's so much feeling of that here. And then you also realize to a certain extent, for lack of a better use of term, like there's definitely a little bit more third worldness there in many spaces where you're like, geez, it feels like you're actually quite home.
Yeah. I've heard good things from everybody, and I've seen lots of good stuff in the media too about America, Canada, and Mexico in this World Cup. And they've pulled out all the stops. Trust North America because they lead in so many ways to just blow everybody's expectations right out of the water. Because I remember thinking in the build up to this, I remember thinking, there's not a lot of like excitement. I hope they don't, because we know America is not a big football nation, right? I hope they don't drop this and it isn't like a damp squib, but it seems to have just been absolutely fantastic, astonishing, coincided clearly with the American 250th anniversary. So there was a lot of reason for plenty of people from all over the world to be really excited about seeing the World Cup in those countries.
Look, I will say, when I initially got there, I had the stance of maybe it should just be Mexico, because the excitement, the fervor, and the feeling of it was one of that reminded me of 2010, that the World Cup is here.
Sure.
And it's just super invigorating. When I got to the States, as you're welcomed in, people are saying, "Oh, why are you here? Why are you here?" and telling them that it's the World Cup. They're like, "Oh, when does that start? Oh, I didn't know it was the World Cup." And I was like, "Wait, what is going on here? I'm so confused." So many Americans didn't know like when it was starting, where it's happening. And I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. And then, in Canada, when you look at the media and everything, you weren't sure if Canada knew they were hosting. And like, it was just so much going on. But then you watch those Canada games in Canada and Vancouver and Toronto, and how packed those were. And then in the States, it seemed like the major cities really just put on an absolute show. New York, Boston, when it was hosted there, Miami as well. The atmosphere was great. But then then you see that Texas and Houston and Dallas was a little bit more of like a damn squib, as you refer to it, where there was apparently only excitement around the stadium in the actual game, and then you left and you go back downtown. It's like, there's not a peep, no one wearing any football gear. No one knows what's happening. Everyone's wondering when the next rodeo is, whatever it might be. And it's just like, and that was quite interesting. But they have definitely I think they've definitely surprised a lot of people with just how well they've hosted. However, it has changed the DNA of the game, in terms of things like this hydration break. I'm not sure if you've seen a lot, where now it's changed it into this very American format of these 4 quarters, which has lost the flow of the game. Then you've got the controversy around.
They want to put more advertising in, obviously.
It's all exactly. It's all for that.
Americans
100%.
are so good at that stuff. But I don't know. I mean, I've spent enough time in America, and I've gone to a couple of games which I would never do in most countries. I couldn't give a shit, but they make everything such an entertainment spectacular, right? They've got like cameras all over the stadium. They got people doing stuff on the field. They've got things going on in the stands. It's just like Americans get entertainment like very few other people do. So I am thrilled that they hosted the World Cup, and maybe it'll get America a little more excited and enthusiastic about football. I'm not holding my breath, but it could. And then Biasin says here, Argentina has not been great. You just be careful. Just remember, this is my team since 1990. Messi has been great. Yes, of course he is. He is the greatest. But I think it's an awesome final, don't you?
I think it's going to be a fantastic final. I do think for a long period of the World Cup, there was no question as to who the best team in the World Cup was, and that was France. And then you saw that actually, when you saw how tactical Spain was and how disciplined they were against France, and how France couldn't manage to really penetrate beyond their kind of last quarter and get into their box and get some shots or targets, and even really manage to get the ball and gain possession enough from the midfield and intercept that discipline that Spain had formed, that actually they were beatable, and actually they weren't tactically sound, and they just had a couple great moves and relied on speed, and that's where they managed to get their quick jabs in and create those those massive moments where you'd have Mbappe just kind of sprinting through, or Dembele down the side and rocketing in some shots with some easily telegraphed passes that just end up leading to these goals, where Spain, like, as soon as they have their structure, you just can't get through them, and you can't beat them on that discipline. And is the Spanish way of football, that tiki-taka kind of football. And they won the 2010 World Cup just like that too. And I think you know what, I've always been a massive Messi fan, but with the Argentina road to victory and how much it's brought the game and the trust and love for the World Cup into the level of disrepute it has, and now brought in all these other conspiracies, because if we're honest, the absolute inconsistency of VAR usage, you almost think that Spain maybe should take it to save FIFA's blushes. Otherwise, it's just going to cause more issues. And I think at the end of the day, there's the other side, right? There's the other side where Argentina still has to score the goals. They still have to win the game. They still have to have those brilliant moments where Messi creates these opportunities and scores these goals in these last 10 minutes, 3 goals out of nowhere that makes them win against Egypt 3-2. But after 2 very controversial calls where it's like, cool, those calls,
come on.
I get them.
So
but
I watched, that was one of the most exciting and unexpectedly exciting games.
Unbelievable.
Oh my God. I mean,
they
had 15 or 16 minutes left to go. Egypt were 2-0 ahead, and Argentina just suddenly start to accelerate and to ramp things up. And I thought, oh my God, okay, it's going to go to a penalty shootout. There's going to be extra time, and they just closed it off. It was fucking amazing to watch.
Hence why I'm saying, like, at the end of the day, you can say anything you want about the calls, but then Argentina still has to score those goals. They still have to have those moments, and you definitely can't discredit that whatsoever. And then you look at England against I just went back. England played Spain, and I mean, Spain was just far superior, and I think when England has always professed just how they are the best league over and over and over again, yet can't win a World Cup, what I think now is the last 60 odd years, I think 60 years to 60 years or so, and like, they just keep shooting themselves in the foot. And I think it was quite interesting to tactically then decide, okay, we're going to now sit back. We've got a 1-0 lead, and then watching themselves get get punished for that. I think it was much deserved against Argentina. It was much deserved because Argentina again will show you that at the depth that they will win. But their road has been exciting. Like Argentina's road, seeing them win all these last minute kind of games and last minute winners. That Capo Verde game with Argentina was one of the best games of the World Cup. But once again, they dug deep and they got the job done every single time. And I think that's what's going to be exciting against Spain. You've got two very similar styles in certain senses. You've got lots of Argentinians that play out in Spain, and you've got Messi, who is really the king of Spanish football, having become this great at Barcelona, and a lot of tacticians that are up against each other. And I think we're going to see a super exciting game, one where both of them won't end up resting on their laurels and becoming complacent.
Give me your prediction. Give me your prediction.
Oh, you know what? You saw the last World Cup against France? If you try to predict that would just be insanity. I mean, that was one of the most exciting World Cup finals ever, and I think it's going to be the same case here. However, I do, in some really sad, dramatic way, tip Spain to end up winning this one 3-2.
All right. Well, I know
my heart, however, does want that to be the other way around, and Messi have a back-to-back and make it absolutely undeniable, which I really think it is, that he's the greatest of all time. I've been a huge Argentina fan. I mean, that's a fact, but I think
I'll take
the game needs that.
Okay. Whoever, I'm obviously backing Argentina, and if I win, then you can buy me lunch. We'll go to your. Okay. Do you still have that place with the burgers?
Nah, I don't anymore, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, we'll go somewhere else that you don't own.
There's other places with burgers that I can take you there.
Yeah. All right. So, but you're going to pay for the lunch if Argentina win, and if Spain win, I'll pay for the lunch, because I mean I haven't seen you in such a long time. And bring your dad.
It's a win-win
as well.
situation. I'll take that bet. Fantastic. Yeah, all right, we'll make him pay.
Okay. Deal.
Perfect.
So tell me about all the other things that you're involved in, because you're always one of these people who's got like irons in all the different fires. You've got this really good reputation in the business community in South Africa, in the media business, and that's a hard thing to do, because the minute you do something for this one, then the other one's pissed off, and you've managed to somehow thread this needle for years. You're masterful at it. I've got to give you all the credit in the world for it. But you're doing so many other things at the same time. What are your day-to-day projects at the moment that you want to tell us about?
I think right now I've been really, really fortunate in terms of how I've been lucky to essentially travel the world with a lot of presenting and emceeing work, both locally and internationally. Currently, I'm working on a food travel show, African food travel show, where I'm traveling the continent, kind of Bourdain-esque, trying to show the world just the incredible food that we have on the continent, and cool. Sharing that with the world, just showing how South Africa, how Africa really has a wonderful culinary prowess in all its offerings, but also how our food has traveled throughout the continent and traveled globally, and really how we have so much more in common, as a globe than we think, but also just highlighting just how special the African food offering is. And as South Africans as well, we always rush to the rest of the world and give them all the acclaim for what they have to offer. And if it's French, it's better. If it's Italian, it's better. That's where the best food is. But we have so much incredible food on the continent, and there's this kind of superiority complex even when it comes to food, where it's like, oh no, that's from Ghana, that's from Nigeria, that's and I think we find so many gems here where we realize actually we relate in so many ways.
That's such an interesting observation, and I don't disagree with you. But if aliens had to land on planet Earth now, and you were the person, and they said, okay, we've chosen among all the humans, we've asked Maponyane to decide what is the representative dish for Africa or for South Africa that you would put in front of the aliens?
The representative dish for South Africa that put in front of the aliens.
Something that they go,
well,
what? Okay, that.
I mean, what's been interesting about this journey, for example, Gareth? Like, So far we've kind of started going through the Southern African side, and what's been fascinating is finding chefs like Busindlovu, who is Soweto born and now is creating these traditional, almost township flavor dishes with this so on a gourmet level. So bringing in a lot of that, Western feel into them, but keeping the flavor the same and keeping that presentation on that level, but the flavor keeping it so South African. And the fusion of creating those kinds of flavors has been something that has been quite exciting. Having that
no, you are done. You're done, dude. You are dancing around. The aliens are landing.
Wait.
You're the man. Choose the dish.
No, so then you do all these things, right? And you go to these amazing places and you see like the culinary gourmet level. And then you go to a place in Cape Town all of a sudden. And then this is what I love in terms of the vastness of the show that we're creating and telling the stories of the people behind the dishes and everything. Then you go to Golden Dish, which is Cape Town's most famous place for Gatsby's. And oh my goodness. And then you're like, oh, I mean, this like, let me tell you, taste all those flavors that you've ever had in SA.
You cannot teach me. You can't teach me about the Golden Dish. I only ate there once, but I will never forget it in my life. I had what they call the bastard. I had it at like 2 a.m. after a big night out at the Galaxy. Yeah, the bastard.
Yeah.
Dude. It's heavy. You don't need to eat for another 2 days after that because you're sorted. It's probably what killed Elvis, actually, now that I think about it. But that place is absolutely one of the things every South African has to do once in their life.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we've got so many dishes, right? But I mean, if you take something as simple as that, which is supposed to be an easily accessible dish just to grab, and you show how delicious that Gatsby is from there, and you're like, this is the kind of flavors we work with in South Africa. Then I think the aliens would be like, okay, fine. You guys are good. We'll just move on to Namibia instead.
Don't give the aliens tripe. We will be eliminated immediately. Oh, I couldn't agree more. What do you eat? Because we were talking to Dr. Ray before you came on. He's talking about GLP-1s and all these people on Ozempic, and you've never had weight issues. You've always been a spectacular human being in terms of your overall physique and well-being. But what do you eat on a day-to-day basis? Because you don't look like one of those people who's as into food as you are.
I mean, I honestly eat everything. I just avoid eating things that may be like, I eat everything. I think I just avoid like a lot of fried foods. And I've got such a sweet tooth, so I try avoid like things that are too sugary, because then it's such an addictive thing for me where I just not able to.
I'm with you.
So because of like the length of the days that I have and everything, and obviously it can seem, silly to mention, I end up finding myself like you find that what you really should eat because of what makes you feel better and what can like sustain you throughout the day. So I end up finding myself wanting to eat things that at least are just like well prepared and fresh, but I love good pasty food I can get stuck into. And a lot of the time I'll do that for dinner, and I just love rich, beautiful flavors where I know the next thing I'm going to do is have a shower and sleep, and want to pass out or something. But if I need to sustain myself energetically throughout the day, I always keep it as balanced as I can. And I try to have as much color on my plate as possible, but that's something probably that's a nostalgic attachment to my mom, because the 7-color dish that my mom makes is always going to be my favorite. And I think I've always been taught that a variety of color is always what is the best thing to sustain you and makes eating more exciting. But I'll eat just about anything. I just love it.
Isn't it interesting though that idea of having as many colors on your plate? It sounds cosmetic and maybe traditional and nice, but it turns out it's pretty healthy for you. Humans have developed an attraction to colorful food because many varieties of different colors of food provide you with many different nutrients. So it ends up being a self-fulfilling prophecy in the end, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of dietitians, they always like to say that thing of if it's brown, if it's only brown and white, it's not right. That might be a South African debate for years. But just that alone, we know that. Like we know that, but it just also a lot of the time is our staple, and it tastes so good, and it's meat and it's the starch, and it's meat and it's the the fried potatoes and everything, just all beautiful things. But I think what's funny is even when you get put on some kind of like eating program to get into good shape and you're eating these foods, it's just quite hilarious how we avoid knowing exactly what our bodies want. And when you're keeping up with it, we frame it under this like word diet. But if you think about it, everything we eat is some form of a diet. Diet's not this negative thing. It's like we just know what we need to eat, and we make the choice not to eat those things that we need to eat often enough. And I think for me, obviously, balance and moderation at the end of the day.
It's a bit of a simplification and oversimplification, maybe, to say, you get your eat to live people and your live to eat people. And I always used to say, well, I'm one of those eat to live people. If I could just take a pill every morning and that would give me all the nutrition I needed for the day and I could save time on meals, then I'd be happier. But obviously, there's so much about eating. And you mentioned some of these shows that you're doing, which you're doing all over the world. Something about eating that is hugely social, and it has all kinds of benefits apart from the nutrition, which we take for granted, and we think, you only think about after the fact. And somebody said something to me the other day about how you should actually never just have a meal on your own, because we've lost Mups. Is he there? Dropped off?
I'm back. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, sorry. You should never have a meal on your own, because you're missing out on all the added bonus things about a meal that you don't get just from the food. It's not what you put into your body, it's who you're with. That's why it's considered like the height of hospitality. And when someone is truly a part of your life, that you would break bread with them, as the Bible and many other old texts say. So these are important things, that the social aspect of eating.
I mean, I'm definitely a live to eat person, and any opportunity, I look forward to the moment I get to eat during the day. I really, really do. And I'm also a person that can make you feel a little bit uncomfortable when you're eating around them, because I have this this relationship where I go into a deep, almost like courting with my food, and then there's this flirting that's with that. And then when I eat it, I'm annoyingly like, I'm just like, I want to feel every little, I want to taste and savor every little flavor. And I don't know, it's an interesting thing for me. Like it's maybe a bit of a silly philosophy, but I find that it's how I do a lot of things, where I like a lot of the time being on this big marble can be a pretty miserable thing, right? This big blue marble. And I think, like, for me, I'm like, we've got so many opportunities to make it an interesting and exciting thing. And I think things like food that you have to do on a daily basis, like those mundane things, are what you make exciting about it. And I want to always live as beautifully as possible. And for me, that means like doing things a little bit slower, a little bit more intentionally, being present in those things. And obviously it can seem a little bit esoteric, but I'm like, when I eat each bite, like I want to feel and taste and really know what's happening. And I want to know what the changes happening in me physically are, and how that affects me. And I think that improves my relationship with food, because I know if I have that, I'm not going to feel as good as I feel when I've had this.
It sounds very complicated. I mean, if you're a girl on a dinner date with Maponyane, you're gonna have to compete with the food for attention. It sounds odd.
You know what? I can tell you something about that. My worst date ever was around the issue of food, and I mean, I hope she doesn't watch this. But we were this girl that I'd met many years ago. She loved pizza, and she was just like, if we're going on a date, love for us to go have pizza together. That's my favorite food. We ordered this large pizza to share together, and I'm just like, oh, this looks amazing. It's nice and cheesy and stringy, and we both, dive right in. I grab my pizza and I'm immediately eating it, hardly placing it on my side plate, just like having it all in one go. She takes her first slice, puts it on the side plate, and proceeds to just scrape it off the top of the bread and eats the toppings with the cheese, and does this, and then proceeds to make like a super loud noise while she does it. At the end of it, she had these 3 slices of tomato-based bread with skid marks, just absolutely just mutilated across them. And I was just like, oh no, this alone, that's amazing, girl. I was like,
but you were just totally put off.
Something at the time, and I was like, there's going to be a big thing my whole life, because I realized how much this affects me. But I feel like that would affect anyone, and that never happened again. There wasn't a second date. So food is an important thing for me.
I just want to get to one or two of these comments here quickly. Someone who was at school with you, K9, says, Mups is such a decent dude. I went to school with him. He was kind to everyone and ultra popular. People don't say that about anyone at school, dude. Whatever you did right. And he says, ask him about long jump.
When I said, oh no, I saw that line that said, ask him about long jump before I read anything else. But thank you for that really nice comment coming in. Long jump is a bit of a traumatic trigger for me to think of. But when I was in school, long jump was one of my events in athletics. And I used to, I was overachiever in that field, and I was practicing leading up to our inter-house or inter-schools long jump event. And I was practicing at the stadium, and I was really starting to jump like some of my best lengths. Anyway, so we end up having our inter-house, I can't remember if it was inter-house or inter-schools, but inter-house competition for long jump. And in my warm-up run, I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable, feeling it out. And I say to our school rep or teacher to please move the mat back, because when we had those rubber mats where you could then jump from an earlier spot to reach into the pit. And I said, just please move the mat back. It feels a little bit close and uncomfortable. And he says, oh, Maponyane, you're being silly, because this is 7 meters and the record 7.1 hasn't been broken for the last 40 years. So stop being generic, or whatever it is, And he has a little go, and I'm like, sir, I promise you this feels really, and I worry that I'm going to get a little bit too far.
Yeah.
In my first kind of practice jump, I just commit to feeling that length, and if I am right, I jump, and we have those sand pits, and it has the base around it. I land with my leading foot, my left foot, which is my leading foot, just outside the pit on the grass. And then my back foot hits the wall of the sand pit, and my tibia ends up smashing into my femur. And I absolutely, I obliterated my knee and had to get that reconstructed. And I was out for about 10 months because of that. And
isn't it weird, though, that you had that premonition? I mean, if he just listened to you, maybe you knew something was going to happen, some bizarre idea that like something crazy is going to happen. I need to double check this thing, and no one was listening to you.
Well, I think that's like one of the worst things when you're in that and all you're thinking is, I knew it. I told you so. I asked. And then the worst part for me, the most painful part while I'm screaming, and I remember all the parents are there, all our schoolmasters are there. And like, I always try to be as, I try to be, Gareth, I was screaming, but my initial, I'll never forget, because everyone went, because they were surprised that it was me. As it happened, I went in school, and everyone was like, and it's like, oh my gosh. And then they knew it was bad, like it was really bad. And then what really, really hurt was being carried off and looking at my schoolmaster, really being annoyed with him as he pulled the mats back. And I was just like, thanks.
Yeah, told you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
I just think the most amazing part of that story is that Maponyane used like foul language, and people must have been horrified, because I never even thought you were it was possible for you to do that. I didn't think it was within your wheelhouse.
I mean, the funny thing in that regard is it wasn't the collision that made everyone go, oh, it was that part. That was that.
All right. Tell me a little bit about this. What is Bridges for Music? What is this thing you're involved in now? Because you've got DJs involved here. I believe that Brenda Fassie's nephew is involved in this too. There's some kind of success story here that Sipe Fassie joined as a 14-year-old and is now a touring DJ. Skrillex once pulled him on stage at Ultra in South Africa. I didn't know any of this stuff.
So we've got this incredible organization that I'm lucky to be a part of. I serve on the board of, and it's a wonderful music academy, music and arts and recreation academy out of Langa Township, and it's an opportunity to be able to give young, creative youth from underserved communities, not necessarily just Langa, if you come from other communities that want to come and explore their talents for music, for sound engineering, for any kind of tech and computer skills, and in anything within that kind of creative space. We do mindfulness, we do entrepreneurship skills, and we do, as I say, sound engineering, singing. We have some of the top state-of-the-art equipment that's within there. One of our key sponsors within the organization is Pioneer DJ, and we provide these kids the opportunity to try and explore those talents of theirs, and we've managed to produce incredible talents within the music space, as I say, from sound engineers, but lots of various DJs that have come through the academy's journey, and great musicians, singers, whatever other instruments that they may play, not just the DJs, and they've toured around the world at some of the biggest concerts. One of our biggest sponsors, or one of our biggest donors over the years, since it's been established, which is the last 12 years, is Skrillex. And he's walked this journey with Bridges for Music for a long time. And a lot of international DJs know about this academy in Langa in South Africa. And DJ Mag, for example, last year, what they want to try do on a yearly basis, have this, whenever they have the DJ Mag Awards, they have this lead up to the DJ Mag Awards where all the DJs donate a certain amount of money to the organization as well, just to keep reinvesting in the development of musical skills. And this is something that's worked out really nicely for the organization. And one of the early people as well were people like Black Coffee who used to get behind it. And we've had Avicii, who also came back in the day. And Ahmed from Duran has supported it quite well. Lots of DJs across the country, across the world. Msaki is one of the most wonderful human beings who, from day one as well, has led lots of songwriting camps, lots of singing, camps as well, and takes so much of her own time to spend with these students, and has donated so much of her own money and has given them stages and platforms around the world. She honestly is someone who in her own right deserves, all the love and the flame for what she does for musical development, and is really just a fantastic person. So we've got lots of those here in SA who are quietly making an impact and the difference in the things that they love. Well, and it's giving kids opportunities.
I mean, South African DJs have punched above their weight in Europe and North America and the Caribbean for a long time now. And I think it's just great that there are organizations like this that are doing stuff for the people who nobody knows yet, because one day we will know these names, and everybody starts somewhere, right? I'm blown away by how DJing is still a thing, and it's a growing thing. It's something that's become a very different animal to what it was back in the day. But I meet people all the time who go, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to spend my life doing, is DJing. I'm like, what are you, retarded? And then turns out they're really talented and they can do shit that very few people can do. So I mean, that I'm fully behind.
No, absolutely. I mean, turns out they can buy obscenely massive homes in Cape Town, and it does very, very well. I've even been in past a few times to actually explore it a little bit, and that'd be quite funny. But no, I totally get what you're saying. I think it's the music production element of it. It's definitely. I think you and I have had the same take in the past of just like, you're literally just playing next, like you're mixing into the next. But then when you actually see the skill behind the production side of it, the people who create the music and how they're able to intertwine that with music that's already existing and and producing new music.
All right, so
Maps, then you see it.
Maps, I know you've got all these different businesses going. You've got all these other things. You're on the board of this amazing organization that's doing these things for all these talented young people. Have we got children yet? I mean, I haven't caught up with you in a long time. You don't have children yet?
No, we don't have children yet.
Me neither.
No.
How have you managed not to produce more Maponyanes?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think honestly, it's just been the amount of travel work, and then B, probably the main thing is doing it at the right time with the right person. And
damn right,
I think,
dude. No, that is the answer. That's the answer I was looking for, because that is the truth.
Yeah,
you got to be so careful. I bumped into this guy the other day who I hadn't seen for a long time, right? And he said to me, "Oh, I've got this daughter. She's like 8 years old, and she's beautiful, and I love her to pieces. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, that sounds great." And obviously, I was genuinely pleased for him, because he looked very, very happy while he was telling me the story. And then he turned and he said, "But her mother is a piece of work, hey?" And I suddenly went, "This poor guy." Now, he's got this daughter. Obviously, he wouldn't have it any other way. But now this woman, who he doesn't have anything in common with anymore, she's still in his life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things as well, where people make that mistake also. Like he probably knew that before, but there could be one of those situations where they introduce the child to try to save the relationship, and that ends up being, just the worst idea, because you probably end up hating each other even more, because now you have to deal with each other plus this other human too, who ends up taking the attention away anyway. And for me, like, the irony for me is that I can't wait to be a dad. I think I've been put on this earth to be a father, and it's my number one ambition in life to be the best dad I can possibly be. And so, it's interesting that I haven't, had that yet. But I think that just shows you just how particular I'm being as well, in wanting to do so in an environment where I'm actually really happy being able to do so with the right person.
Listen, it's really good to see you, and we must get together. We owe each other. One of us is going to pay for a lunch soon. Where are you watching the game on Sunday? Yeah, exactly. Where are you watching the game on Sunday?
I'm going to watch it with a group of friends at a mate's place. It's got a lovely little projector system and a little lapa where we're all coming together on the braai. I might bring a Gatsby along with.
Very South African. I like this.
And yeah, I'm just gonna enjoy the game there. So we'll see what happens.
Are you based in Joburg or Cape Town now? Where are you mostly? I mean, you're all over the world.
I'm mostly at the airport, but I'm based between Joburg, Cape Town, Europe, and the States. Yeah, kind of all over the place. Based in Terminal. Terminal 2.
I love it.
All right.
I love it. I will see you shortly, and let's hope the best team wins on Sunday. I'll be watching it just like you are, and I will catch up with you very, very soon, Maponyane. Thank you, sir.
Catch you soon. Thanks so much, Gareth.
Love it, dude. Thanks very much.
Yes.
There he is.
Right,
what a guy. And it's great to have him on the show again. The excellent Maponyane, who, people say, and you saw it in the comments from this guy who was at school with him, like, people only have nice things to say about this guy. I love it. So always, and you could tell it's genuine with him. He's just one of those people. He's garrulous and friendly, and he's real, and he's not putting up any kind of show for people. He's just a decent guy. I love him. Awesome, awesome human being. All right. So whatever you're up to this weekend, I hope you're going to be watching the football on Sunday. And even if you're not a football fan, I encourage you to watch it. It's like a once every 4 years thing. It's so much fun. And support Argentina. What can I tell you? If you truly recognize talent, even if it's only every 4 years, support the great team of Argentina and Lionel Messi, if nothing else. We will be catching up with you next Friday. Don't forget, the daily briefing is still available daily, including today, Monday to Friday. Comes out at 7 a.m. in the morning, and it'll give you a snapshot that'll allow you to position yourself in the world. Sometimes it's not breaking news. It's not a news podcast, even though we're number 2 in the news podcasts in South Africa. I suppose we cover news, so it's the right category. But it's more about kind of understanding what's happening in the world with you. I do the the research and the heavy lifting, and I try to put things in context. We discussed BlackRock this week. We discussed, we go into like deep dives around the World Economic Forum. There's plenty of stuff in there that you're not going to get in 5 or 6 3-hour podcasts that I'm trying to summarize and make useful to you. And then there's this show every Friday where we get to talk to people like Maponyane, we get Leigh on, we get Dr. Ray on. Thanks to all of our guests today. And we will catch you next Friday for another action-packed show. I was talking to James and Janine before the show today, and we've got a busy couple of weeks. So don't miss the next couple of these shows. And let us know what you think. Drop a comment. Tell your friends about it. Tell your enemies about it. Make sure everybody knows. We will see you next week. Have an awesome, awesome Friday, everybody. Ciao.